1887 was the so-called year of the Golden Jubilee, when Britain celebrated the 50th anniversary of Queen Victoria's reign. On this occasion, high-born people from different parts of the empire gathered at Windsor Castle. The Queen herself, having a long-lasting interest in her Indian territories, was amused by the idea of having Indian servants at the table. So 2 attendants were recruited to be employed for a year as a special Queen's on hand. Abdul Kareem was one of them. Later in her diary entry for that day, she described him, writing, "The other, much younger, is much lighter, tall, and with a fine, serious countenance." Back then, the Queen didn't know yet that she'd already been, in a way, acquainted with Abdul. The previous year, she'd visited the Colonial and Indian exhibition held in South Kensington. Her Majesty was impressed by the Indian carpet weaving performed by prisoners from the Agra jail, who had come to London under the supervision of Superintendent John Tyler. Abdul Kareem worked at this very jail as a vernacular clerk, and it was actually he who, back in India, helped Tyler choose carpets and weavers for the Queen. So when she asked Tyler to send 2 genuine Indians to the court, he picked Abdul with no hesitations. Anyway, soon after Queen Victoria noticed Abdul during breakfast at Frogmore House, she took a great liking to him. She demanded that he have a crash course in English so they could more easily communicate with each other. Abdul, on his part, was also quite handy for the Queen. He was teaching her Urdu, the language of noble Indians, which was very useful for the Queen's political affairs. Once, in an attempt to get Queen Victoria closer to her Indian liege's culture, Abdul cooked her curry chicken with dal and pilau. Victoria liked it so much that the dish was added to the Queen's regular menu. In one of her letters, speaking of her affection for Abdul, the Queen wrote, "I am so very fond of him. He is so good and gentle and understanding, and is a real comfort to me." She was happy, but he didn't seem to be. In one of his diaries, he wrote that he felt like a sojourner in a strange land and among a strange people. He wanted badly to get back to India, and Victoria wanted badly to make him stay. At some point, it occurred to the Queen that for Abdul, who used to be a clerk back in Agra, it must have been beneath him to serve as a waiter. So she promoted him, giving Abdul the special title of Munshi, which practically meant the teacher. As historians state, photographs of him waiting tables were immediately destroyed, and he became the first Indian personal clerk to the Queen. Later, she appointed him to be her Indian secretary, and gave him the titles of Companion of Most Eminent Order of the Indian Empire and Companion of the Victorian Order. She was ready to entitle him in any way possible just to please him, and he, by the way, didn't miss the chance to take advantage of her goodwill. He was allowed to travel to India whenever he wanted, and when the Queen noticed that he missed his family a lot, she ordered special rooms to be arranged for his family members whenever they wanted to visit him. Now you see how incredibly attached the Queen had gotten to her Munshi. He always accompanied her wherever she went, and managed to become even closer to her than her own children. She commissioned a number of pictures of him, and it was also reported that she signed off some of her letters to him with "Your loving mother" and "Your closest friend." Today, no one can say for sure whether there was a romantic relationship between Victoria and Abdul. Most likely, their friendship was purely platonic, taking into account that she was more than 40 years older than him. But some people at the royal court would call Abdul Indian John Brown. John Brown was the Queen's former favorite, who unfortunately passed away a few years before she'd met Abdul. By the way, at some point the Queen moved Abdul to the most luxurious room in the castle, which also happened to be previously occupied by John Brown. One way or another, the Queen's admiration for her Munshi was obvious. Which is why, as you've probably already guessed, everyone else in the royal court was not so fond of Abdul. While their close friendship blossomed, virtually no one was comfortable with his rapid promotion, or with how he accompanied her on travels, or how he was seated in the best seats at banquets and so on. They were probably jealous, but most likely they simply felt superior to the Indian of an ordinary origin. None of the other royals were willing to welcome Abdul in their midst, even though the Queen definitely insisted they do so. The English court was desperately trying to convince Queen Victoria that Abdul was simply an arrogant man who used the Queen for his own benefit. But she refused to listen to any negative comments about his behavior. For example, there are records stating that once when Abdul brought some of his relatives from India to England, as he did from time to time, the Queen's brooch disappeared and was sold to a jeweler in Windsor. As a matter of fact, the court blamed Abdul's brother-in-law for stealing. However, Victoria accepted Abdul's explanation that his relative just happened to find the brooch, and it was customary in India to keep anything you find. By the way, it turned out Abdul wasn't very simple at all. There's a story about the Prince of Wales, later Edward VII, who hosted a dinner for the Queen and allocated a seat for Abdul with the servants. Abdul, who'd already become accustomed to his position, felt insulted and went to his room. A similar situation happened when Abdul refused to attend the marriage of Victoria's granddaughter, Princess Victoria Melita of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, because he was once again assigned a seat in the gallery with the servants. In both cases, the Queen took the side of the Munshi, stating that he should have been seated among the household. The tension between the English court and the Munshi only got worse over the years. The aging Queen knew that after she was gone, Abdul would hardly be able to stay in the royal household and decided to secure his future. So she influenced the necessary people in India to arrange him a grant of land in the suburbs of Agra. It was really hard to do. She also took care to secure him a small fortune, which actually made him a wealthy man. Apart from that, she managed to obtain a nice pension for Abdul's father back in India, and a job promotion for his former employer, John Tyler. Queen Victoria passed in 1901. Knowing that his mother would have wished it, the new King Edward VII allowed Abdul to take the beloved queen he'd served on her last journey. He was the last person to see her in her coffin. Immediately after that, the king confiscated and burned all the correspondence between his mother and Abdul. He also ordered the Munshi and all other Indian servants back to India, deliberately erasing that man from the history of the royal court to keep its reputation clean. Abdul returned to India and lived a peaceful life on the estate the Queen had gifted him. He passed away at the age of 46, with no children to leave behind. Fortunately, his nephews managed to find and keep his diary, as well as some letters and photographs. His name had been totally forgotten for a century, until British journalist Sharbani Basu accidentally came across his photo. It took her 5 years to unravel the secret of his life, and only in 2010 was the story of Abdul Kareem, an Indian man who'd once been the Queen's closest confidant, revealed to the public.
8:30 a.m. on the dot. Wake up! You have a lot on the schedule today, Your Majesty. Yes, you're the Queen of England for a day. Yeah, this ought to be fun. You get out of bed at 9 and head to the terrace to enjoy the sounds of your personal bagpipe player. And who's this? The royal corgis running in for a quick cuddle. Next up, a bath before breakfast. No rush showers for your highness. Nothing beats dipping in a relaxing tub. The Queen even has a bathtub in the royal train. Now you head for the kitchen. Oh wait, the longest reigning monarch in British history doesn't have her breakfast in the kitchen. You head to the dining room instead. You'd think a table full of the finest porcelain dinnerware would be waiting, but no, the Queen loves eating out of Tupperware. You might also expect to eat whatever you want, whenever you please. Burgers, fries, chocolate shake? Bring it on! But Her Highness sticks to a strict schedule and diet. Scrambled eggs with salmon and a cup of Earl Grey tea. Sorry, no coffee. During the winter holidays, you can treat yourself to some truffles for breakfast. As you're enjoying your healthy meal, you read the newspaper. One headline says, 300 of the richest people in Britain. You fail to find your own name among them. Yep, even the Queen herself is by far not the wealthiest person in the kingdom. But at least you have your own ATM in your house. Palace. Buckingham is big. I'm talking 775 rooms. But Your Majesty modestly occupies only 6 of them. You've got a bedroom, your private sitting room, a bathroom, and a dressing room. There's also the audience room, where you meet one-on-one with important people as part of your work. And can't forget the Empire Room, which mostly serves as a waiting area. Time to get dressed. Luckily, there are no celebrations on the schedule, so you probably won't have to change your outfit 5 times today. Oh, those brand new shoes look lovely. No need to worry about blisters, Your Highness. One of your helpers has already broken them in for you. You put on some makeup yourself. In fact, the Queen hires a professional makeup artist only once a year for her holiday speech. While getting dressed, you listen to the radio when a nice French song comes on, and you start singing along. Wait, you never knew French before today? Well, you're the Queen of England now, so that means you're fluent. Almost ready. Don't forget your purse. Today, it's more than just a handbag for storing your personal belongings. It's the thing you use to send secret signals to your staff. Put it on the table if you want to leave within 5 minutes. If you don't quite enjoy the conversation you're having, put it on the floor. Your team will get you out of there ASAP. Alright, let's get to work doing Queen stuff. You have a lot of correspondence. The British monarch gets up to 300 letters a day. You also need to send letters to couples celebrating their diamond and platinum wedding anniversaries. Oh, and can't forget a written congratulations to anyone who reaches their 100th and 105th birthdays. So far, the Queen has sent more than 540,000 telegrams. Of course, she has staff to help with that as well. By the way, whoever wants to send fan mail to Her Majesty can just address their letter to Buckingham Palace, London. But don't forget to start it with Madam and finish it with, I have the honor to be, Madam, Your Majesty's humble and obedient servant. Yeah, for real. Okay, so what about your other queenly duties? You meet with the Prime Minister on Wednesdays and give your royal assent, like a stamp of approval, for new proposed laws. You also have your morning meetings, and you'll need to attend important events and give awards when they're on the schedule. Good news is, there's none of that today. Just deal with the pile of correspondence and, ah yes, the mysterious red box. It requires special attention. If you had any important engagement or meeting, the secretary would have brought you the profiles of the people you were supposed to meet. Okay, let's get to the good stuff already. Gifts! Time to add a few more items to the list of presents the royal household publishes every year. Elizabeth II gets all kinds of them, from a silver post-it note holder to a brand new sports car. There's a catch though. You can use your gifts, but they don't officially belong to you personally. They're the property of the royal collection. Anyway, another thing you can now enjoy as the Queen is 2 birthdays. It's an old tradition going back to the 18th century. The first one is the day Her Majesty was born, and the second is for when the weather is good and you can celebrate without any problems. Only in England. Alright, now let's check the feed. Oh yeah, you're quite the star on social media. Over 8 million followers on Instagram, 5 million on Facebook, and just over 650,000 on YouTube. Sure, these are the royal family's accounts, but hey, you're the head of the household. Traveling is another thing the Queen does a lot. She's visited more than 120 countries. And get this, as the monarch now, you don't even need a passport to go abroad. Don't need a driver's license to go for a spin either. Ah, the perks of the job. 1 p.m. Finally, time for lunch. It can be pretty hearty, including up to 4 courses. But the Queen likes to keep her portions small. Her midday meal can be a large salad, grilled chicken, and fresh fruit on the side. Or, when she's not too hungry, Elizabeth II especially likes tuna sandwiches. It's the one you go for today, since it's easy to whip up. Butter some bread, cut the cucumber, but make sure the slices are really thin as the Queen likes it. Add a dash of pepper, tuna, maybe some mayonnaise on the top, and dig in. Oh, and no carbs or starches for Her Highness. So forget about eating potatoes, pasta, and rice today. The Queen is dedicated to her healthy diet, as you can tell by now. Definitely gonna grab some pizza and a large soda when this royal day's over. Now that you have a couple of free hours, You can do something that you probably already do every day in your normal, not the Queen of England life – Netflix. Her Majesty does enjoy some series on there, especially ones inspired by her own life. Well, if all of us normies had movies made about us, we'd all probably be watching them too. You glance down at your nails. Polish chipped a bit, better touch up. If you're worried about having a massive collection of colors to choose from, no need. She's been wearing the same shade since 1989. Back then, the Queen's hairdresser wrote a letter to a brand requesting a bottle of pale pink polish that's been her go-to since. It's not that expensive either, just $9 a bottle. 5 o'clock. It's tea time with some dessert. Yeah, time to indulge. The Queen always chooses moderate slices of her favorite chocolate cake. The recipe is more than 100 years old. It was first served to Queen Victoria and hasn't changed since. Scrumptious. You gulp down the entire slice, hardly even chewing the sweet dessert. Don't forget about who you are today. You need to eat slowly and properly. Oops. You reach out for another slice, but alas, no such luck. Remember, she's serious about her diet. Well, it's getting pretty late. There's one thing you've been wanting to do since you woke up as the Queen of England this morning. It's the thing she loves most and does every single day – horseback riding. Woohoo! Giddy up! At 94 years young, Her Royal Highness still likes to stay active and in shape this way. She races the horses herself too, and never misses the yearly Royal Windsor Horse Show. That ride made you work up an appetite. You head back to the palace where dinner's already waiting for you. You wash it all down with something sparkling and sweet. That hits the spot. 11 p.m., the time the Queen usually goes to bed. You're still not tired and just can't fall asleep. Then the sound of the clock warns you that it's already midnight. Your eyelids get heavy, you close your eyes, and fall fast asleep. The buzzing of your morning alarm jolts you out of sleep. No bagpipes today. You look around, same little apartment. No corgis, no relaxing baths or horse riding. Just your cat staring at you blankly, waiting for his breakfast, His Highness.